It was several years ago. We were working with the Detroit Pistons in the Palace in Auburn Hills. Our team was working in the basement in one of the party suites. My team went back and I'm there. I'm finishing up. It's about 7:30 and 8 and I'm going to go get some food at the hotel. Well, I walk out of the room and it's pitch black. So I'm, feeling down the walls. I'm stumbling and trying to find my way around. It took me 30 minutes to figure out how to get out of the basement. And I think if I would have had something to predict the way for me, light up the path, or, in this case, of course, AI to tell me how to get out of the dark in a strange building in the middle of the night, that would have been a good thing. Well, I certainly own a lot of insurance, and I buy it both for my business and for my family, so I understand how important that is. But my day job, I actually run the Pedowitz Group, and we are a consulting firm that helps sales and marketing leaders drive more revenue, but in a scalable way. So we help them figure out better strategies, better processes, how to leverage technology, and then how to execute at scale. Whether you are an individual insurance agent, you run a big practice, or you're a multi-billion-dollar corporation, we all can scale better. There's only so many hours in the day, and life's getting harder all the time.
So how did you get into that?
Well, that's actually a really great question. This is the third business I've owned. So for all the entrepreneurs that listen to this, I can appreciate, just how hard it is to hang your own shingle and build that practice. My first business, I owned and operated 35 Subway sandwich shops up in New Jersey. So I am a certified sandwich artist. So just in case everyone's hungry during this podcast, I can crank out
Coca combo.
Did you own 35?
35.
Wow.
Yeah.
That was one franchise that I was looking into long time ago.
So the reason why I start there is I was a teenager and I worked a lot in the restaurant business. I was a busboy, maitre d' and waiter, and I learned a lot about processes from the Greek diners and the owners that I worked for. And then working for a franchise like Subway and making sure all the franchisees that we were operating were being consistent and doing things the right way. Because believe it or not, owners, they thought they could do whatever they wanted. They wanted to make pizza and hamburgers and do all kinds of stuff. They're like, no, this is a sandwich shop. You can't do that.
Yeah.
So that, and then I had always loved computers and software. So this is the early 90s. So after, working in this for 7 years and doing this with my dad and my friends razzing me endlessly because they were all software. They're like, dude, what are you going to make sandwiches for the rest of your life? The .com era is getting going, the internet's getting going. So I sold out my shares in our Subway operation and I got into computers and software. Started working in computer associates, and then I worked in marketing and I worked in consulting. And then I got into sales training. So I did that in the early 2000s. Then we started having kids and raising a family, and I ended up working for a company called SalesNet, which was an early competitor of Salesforce. The reason why I love working for them is they had a process engine that they used at the time that was built around sales training methodologies. So there's this consistent theme in my life: process, operations, technology, marketing, sales. My job at SalesNet was to recruit sales trainers, Miller Hyman or value selling or integrity selling and so on, and get them to build their methodologies inside the software. So in order to recruit them and generate leads, we ended up discovering a company called Eloqua, which was the first marketing automation platform that hit the market back in 2000, 2001. And I fell in love with the whole platform. The application had everything that I loved. It had process, it was software, it was marketing, it was sales. So I ended up going to work for them, and I became their first head of professional services, and we built out a lot of practices, helped train a lot of their early partners on how to actually drive demand generation. And I saw them growing their businesses with IP that me and our team were coming up with. And I'm like, hey, I can do this.
Yeah.
So left Eloqua, started the Pedowitz Group, and have not looked back 16, 17 years later.
Wow. Super cool. What crazy changes have happened in the last 16, 17 years, and to be a part of it that whole time. So cool.
So much. Well, I mean, as I mentioned, when we started, the smartphone had not come out yet.
Yeah.
Later that year. So that's a big one, right?
Yeah.
And I had my Crackberry, I guess, like everybody else.
Yeah.
Let's see. Well, there was no TikTok. There was no Instagram. YouTube had just started. Facebook was 3 years old. There was no Twitter yet. So there was no streaming services, right? So a lot has changed in just the past 15 years or so. And that, of course, and that was even while AI was around, not like now, like not all the stuff that we're seeing in the world. So yeah, and now that the buying cycle was already starting to change. And I think those of us that are in sales, we're already starting to see the shift. It didn't matter what we sold, but people were engaging more digitally. By this point, Amazon had established itself really well. Mm-hmm. Netflix was not as dominant back in 2007, but certainly was taking a good run. And people were starting to get used out of getting what they want when they want it right now. And people started using the search engines more, using the internet more. And for those of us in sales who we were used to building relationships, meeting people at the dinner table or going to the golf course or taking them out for a dinner, and we got further and further removed from our customer because they were able to make more and more decisions on their own. And so as technology enters our world, as different generations buy differently and engage differently, for those of us that are in sales and marketing are trying to build our businesses, and where is our own comfort level with technology? Because we certainly grew up very differently, at least without me giving my age away, grew up very differently. So, the ability to reach our customers and leverage technology to do it, especially when we're not as familiar or comfortable with technology, that's a challenge.
Yeah.